all had a crazy ex, right? If you have, I want to hear about it down in the comments. First night in a new city, I called my mother to tell her I arrived safely. She tells me that the girl I dated when I was 16/17, I was now 23 and hadn't heard a peep in 5 years, called out of the blue looking for me and left her number. Lonely and bored, I rang her up and had a strange catch-up session. Fair enough, I appreciate the honesty. She told me she was engaged to a woman and that her life after we broke up was a series of unfortunate events. We hung up on pleasant terms with no plans to keep in touch. 3 days later, I am exiting my building, and who is standing there in the rain waiting? Yup, her. She had flown 2,500 miles in the middle of the night because she thought we were destined to be together. Told me how she was so torn up about us not being together that she had pulled out all of her pubic hair. She also brought her fiance, who was as crazy as she was, and was urging my ex to have a baby with me. What? What's happening? I calmly tried to tell her that this was insane, literally insane, and that I had no interest in any of this when out of nowhere, all goes black. I wake up to chaos as my doorman is holding the fiance down, waiting for the police. Turns out she had hit me on the back of the head with a full bottle of champagne they brought to celebrate with. Arrests and restraining orders followed. I'm gonna need a second to take that all in. The first half, I was like, all right, that's pretty cuckoo bonkers. The rest, that's concerning. I'm now concerned for your safety moving forward. I feel like we also could have left out the pubic hair part, but hey, the details, the more the merrier. So my crazy ex, who I got set up with through a friend, it was online and long distance, and I had known, and still do know this, sane friend for years. That was a lot. Was seemingly this really nice, attractive girl who I'd come to know and be friends with for a while. I don't know what story I'm trying to set up here, but let me just cut to the chase. She was the cult leader of this thing her and her friends created, where they believed they were stars. Well, don't we all? I'm just kidding. They believed they were stars. Oh, from outer space. Oh, actual stars. In human bodies. And were the chosen ones. And would ascend to a higher plane of existence at some point when the Sumerians, or whatever conspiracy baloney they had going along with, it came down from space and picked them up in their spaceship. They also believed they were telepathic and had special powers like passing energy to one another. Whatever that meant, I have no idea. They also wanted to get a farm somewhere for all the chosen ones to live on. Oh God, this is just a documentary series waiting to happen. Let's call it Chosen Ones. Oh my God, I should direct it. Thing is, one of the apparent chosen ones were in talks about getting him a fake illegal passport one day to get him there. Wasn't that many people to the group, like 6 or 7, herself included, but still this creepy cult stuff where you wouldn't want to drink the Kool-Aid. I'm probably leaving some stuff out, but that summarizes a good chunk of it. Yeah, I'm gonna pass on that Kool-Aid. Listen, we get one life. If you want to believe that, by all means. But I will not be around it. I'll tell you that right now. Hell no, I don't want to go live on your chosen one farm. I dated a guy from my circle of friends when we were 15. It lasted about 3 months, then fizzled out. So we went back to being friends. No big deal. Around 2 years later, I moved to a different city and we haven't stayed in touch, but I ran into him on a visit to my hometown. It's a bit awkward and I'm in a bit of a hurry, so we pretty much just say, hi, nice to see you again, and go our separate ways. Completely normal interaction. I didn't think much of it until I get a phone call from a mutual friend asking if I'd mind if she gives him my email, because she just got a phone call from him crying uncontrollably, saying that seeing me again brought back all those feelings and that he's in love with me, we're meant to be together, and he needs me to know that. What the hell? I tell her to definitely not give him my email, but she does anyway because she feels so sorry for him and thinks he needs closure. Over the next month or so, I get around an email a day, starting at something along the lines, hey, was great to see you the other day. Maybe we should catch up sometime. And quickly escalating to, I will find you and make you love me. When I am inside, when I am inside you, you won't be able to deny our connection. when you're in prison. Being a teenage moron with no idea how to handle this sort of situation, I just delete and ignore the emails until I find out you can block them, which I do. You should have kept them as evidence, just in case. He doesn't try emailing me from another account or anything, so I figure he's got the hint and moved on. Years pass and I've pretty much forgotten about the whole saga, except from bringing it up when telling crazy ex stories. Then a couple of months ago, around 7 years after the email, so we're both in our mid-20s, my mom, who's moved back to our hometown, ran into him at the supermarket. She remembers him from when we were friends in high school, but has no idea about the emails because I never said anything. They get chatting and my mom and he seem normal and happy until she brings up that I just got married the month before. He breaks down crying in the middle of the supermarket. My mom comforts him until he pulls himself together a bit, tells her to say hi to me for him, and runs out of there. Still have no idea what his deal was. Well, girl, he was just so in love in a very creepy and demanding way, but I guess you truly were the one that got away. And thank God for your own safety. I was about 17 or so, and we were at a Halloween party at the restaurant my buddy was a busboy at, and we were getting served, which was awesome. This girl who he dated once or twice shows up, and she's all over him, but he isn't interested in her, so he ignored her most of the night. She got drunk and started throwing herself at him very sloppily. Oh, so we started making fun of her. Nothing horrible, just teasing that she was too drunk. She disappeared for a while and we thought she finally went home, when suddenly she appeared again crying with blood all over her face, shrieking, "Look what he did to me," pointing to my buddy. Apparently she went to the bathroom and cut up her face with a razor blade in a brilliant plan to, well, I'm not quite sure what she was thinking. So most people around us realized my buddy had been with us the whole time and couldn't possibly have done this, but a few large gentlemen who were not aware of this fact decided they would be her, oh God, they would be her knight in shining armor and make us pay for what we'd done. They started walking towards us and weren't in the mood to hear our side of the story, so we ran to the parking lot and took off in my buddy's car. Well, understandably so. If you didn't know what actually happened and a woman came out of the bathroom yelling that, I'm sure a lot of us would be like, hey now, that's not right. However, that's, there's levels of crazy. There's like, oh, crazy girl, and then there's like, no, like crazy girl. Concerned, might need some help in a serious way, not a laughing matter. My ex broke up with me just before she went away to university because long distance never works. I texted her when she was away but never replied. She wouldn't even answer texts asking why she's not replying, and I was sending maybe 15 to 20 per day. I soon heard from friends that she had a new boyfriend, so I phoned her to find out straight from her mouth if it was true, but that crazy biatch still didn't reply. Pissed me off a bit, so I left some voicemails with a few choice words, but then I felt bad, so I left one apologizing. I knew if I could just see her, she would stop acting so effing insane and would realize she still loved me. I got her address from the university, surprisingly easy, and had just pulled up across the road when she came out the door and got in a car with another guy. I knew at this point she must just be deliberately being a crazy... Not one thing she's done in this paragraph has made her crazy. Being a crazy, hurtful biatch, so I followed the car to talk to her when they got out. But they pulled up outside a Michelin star restaurant, so the crazy biatch is obviously just after his money. I wrote a note addressed to her, calling her a crazy, hurtful, spiteful biatch, but that I still loved her and asked her to please get in touch. That was yesterday and I still haven't heard anything. So who's gonna tell him? Who's gonna tell him? You guys, who's gonna tell him that he is, in fact, the crazy ex? Not sure where we got lost in translation when you wrote this about your crazy ex, but you just made everyone else aware that it's in fact you. It's in fact you. This happened to my girlfriend when she left her ex. My girlfriend moved to another state to get away from this girl. So one day, the now ex drove 5.5 hours to surprise my girlfriend, who told her that it was over. She begged and pleaded for her to not break up with her, offering up sexual favors, and threatening to end her life. My girlfriend said no and offered to let the ex stay at her place for the night while she stayed with a friend. The girl drove home at 2 a.m. At 5, my girlfriend gets a text from the ex's father and her sister saying that she had been in a horrible wreck and was in the hospital. My girlfriend gets on the phone and starts trying to find out what happened. Called the cops, no wreck. Called the hospital, no one under the name was admitted. Calls back the father, only to find that his phone has been stolen. The ex had stolen her father and sister's phone and made up this lie to get my girlfriend to come to her rescue. Lesbians be crazy. People be crazy. Let's be so for real. We were going good and steady for about half a year. We discussed possibly getting married and all the great stuff being in love tends to bring up. Fast forward a few more months and I found out she was cheating on me while I went on a 2-week field exercise. She said she was lonely and I told her I was done with her. No cheaters allowed in my book, can't stand them. About 9 months later, I got a letter from an attorney saying I was the father of her child and my jaw dropped. I used protection the entire time. So how in the world was I the father of this random child she is having? I got the paternity test done and that is how I found out I was the father of her child. I call her up and ask how in the world I am the father. We used protection and she was on the pill. Turns out she thought she would stop taking the pill and take a used condom and get herself prego to try and save the relationship by having a child. Okay. I have a lot of questions. Like, are you just using like a turkey baster to just shoot that up there and get pregnant? Like, probably. Oh my God, why did I just say that out loud? I really should have just thought that phrase out in my head, but here we are. The only person I would consider a crazy ex was a compulsive liar that I dated for a couple months. She was a coworker of mine at my last job and we arranged our first date when we were working. Later that day, I was talking with her on the phone and she informed me that she loved me. We're moving very fast here. It freaked me out a little bit because we only knew each other, for about a week at this point. We're moving very fast. We are in turbo mode. But we were in high school and I was just glad to have a girlfriend. Fair enough. Over the next few months, she stood me up a few times, but I had a good time on the dates that she did make. But I started to feel distant from her. She was getting upset that I wasn't saying I love you to her. I started realizing that the two of us had next to nothing in common. This ranged from bigger things like life ambitions to smaller things like person, taste, and entertainment. And she made quite the big deal out of how she couldn't believe that I liked certain things and I didn't like her choices. It's almost like we can have different opinions. Not in this world, you can't. That's my own rant. She wasn't aware of something called personal preference. I also started finding little lies popping up. She could never keep her story straight and I started not trusting her. Anyway, I had self-esteem issues and stuck with the relationship for a couple of months. I started wanting to get out of it because I knew it wasn't going to work. I had never broken up with someone before and I knew it was going to crush her. I was weak and an idiot. I stopped calling her. Granted, she never noticed because she called me probably 29 out of 30 times. I spent most of our conversations trying to find my words and get the courage to break up with her, always failing. Oh, to be young. Finally, after a week of this, she asked me if I want to break up. I said yes. And sure enough, she freaks out, crying. When she asked why, I list basically everything I said in my previous paragraph. The conversation ended and I felt a bit better that I finally got that over with. Fast forward a couple of days and we were both working together. I hadn't been thinking about the next time I'd see her. And she broke down crying again. My manager spent some time consoling her in the locker room. Over the next week, a few different coworkers who I considered friends started to distance themselves from me. Finally, I confronted one of them about what was going on to discover that they all thought I was a jerk because I broke up with this girl because we didn't like the same music. This is apparently what she had been telling everybody. She picked one thing out of the laundry list of reasons I gave her and focused on that. This damaged numerous friendships and tainted my reputation. That wound up taking a long time to restore, but the fun doesn't stop there. The sarcasm in that. Over the next several years, I kept running into this girl, and she would regularly propose that we get back together. Nope. Just nope. If I spotted her, I would do everything in my power to not be seen by her. It was getting ridiculous. But the last time I talked to her was quite satisfying. I was at the mall to make a final payment on an item I had on layaway. I entered the store and there she was behind the counter. She must have recently started because I had never seen her over the previous few months. So she's chatting with me as I'm making a payment and she once again asks if I want to get together. I simply ask her, "You do know you just sold me an engagement ring, right?" Oh, that was what was on layaway, the final payment. Yeah, when you got a crazy girl on your hands, that doesn't matter to her. That doesn't, in her mind, she's like, oh, you're not buying this ring for me? What? But we're supposed to be together. Like, no convincing her. Y'all already know. Okay, anyone else do that? When they do like a little like check, you gotta smile at yourself. You know, my ex and I were on a trip to Vegas in college, went to a formal dinner. After dinner and lots of drinks for her, she slapped me in front of everyone for talking to another girl at dinner. It was a friend's girlfriend. We were all at dinner together at a big table. That's crazy. Ran up to the room, locked herself in the bathroom, and tried to drown herself in the tub while still wearing her expensive dress. After unlocking the bathroom, she got out of the tub and proceeded to barge out of the room, wet dress and all, and walk the strip. I just stayed in my room and waited for her to come back. That seems like a scene in a horror movie. All I'm picturing is Carrie when she comes out in that dress. You know, I think that's the movie. That's the vibe I'm getting. While I was in class, I was receiving a ton of calls, texts, voicemails from my then ex. I ignored them and refused to be distracted because it was a midterm review session. He then found my class, threw open the classroom door, and started dragging me by the arm to leave the class. Not on my watch. I was absolutely horrified that this scene was occurring in front of about 40 people. I resisted because I really wanted to stay in class and he was being crazy, irrational, and ridiculous. He finally was able to drag me out, and though the entire class was silent and watching, they did nothing to help. However, when I finally got outside, I told him off. When he finally left, the class was over and I returned to my own dorm room. It was torn apart. My laptop was folded over its back and its screen had been stomped on and distorted. My DS was murdered in a similar manner. My mirror was cracked down the middle with blood on its broken edges. Finally, in the middle of my room were torn out leaves of my diary. Leaves or pages? Of my diary with drops of blood on them. Apparently, my ex had broken into my room, read my diary, and went berserk. On the pages he tore out, I had written something like, "I'm glad we broke up. I'll find someone better." Yeah, he's definitely a crazy ex. He continued doing other crazy stuff for a while. I called the police on him a few times, and they didn't do anything to help. Eventually, he graduated and disappeared. Well, I'm glad you're safe. Also, where was the professor in all of that? Let alone the 40 people sitting in that classroom? What about the professor being like just allowing someone to barge in the room and grab someone by the arm and tear up? Huh? It's hydration station time and also a very fun announcement. I think you're gonna like this one. I know I am, selfishly. Grab your beverage. Yes, I'm drinking out of a party cup, but it's water. Lame. Cheers. Let me take a sip and then I'll tell you. One thing that I enjoy a lot is being able to vent or rant to someone about something that maybe I'm going through. Now, I want you guys to be able to do that with me because a lot of you guys try to DM me stories or things you've gone through or things like a Karen story or a crazy ex or just some family drama, someone's really bothering you. Now you can submit your stories to me on the form that I'm going to link in all of my descriptions of all of my videos from here on out. Anything you want to share with me that is a rant, event, you know, just some gossip, something you want to get off your chest. Let me know. You have the option to keep it anonymous. That's totally up to you on the forum. You will see it there. I don't have to say who it is, use fake names, but I'm going to now use your real life experiences every week in my videos. I can't wait. I can't wait. And I'm actually the one reading them, you guys. Like, don't think it's someone else. You're gonna see it here first in a video. I met a guy when I was 18 and fell in love fast and hard. We dated, moved in together, got engaged, and eventually got married. But every time we took a step forward in our relationship, he got a little bit meaner. However, it was just enough to make me think that maybe I was being overly sensitive, so I brushed it off. It'd be little things, like he'd yell over dumb stuff, or start hitting walls when I made him mad, or fight me on really small things. Those aren't necessarily small things. He'd also become a lot rougher when we would play around, to the point that he once pinned me down and tried to suffocate me with a pillow. I was young, dumb, and in love, and believed him when he said he was sorry and just messing around. His drinking also picked up quite a bit, but he got Lila's just taken her little hydration station over there, if you hear that. She's a little late to the game. His drinking also picked up quite a bit, but he got angry when I said anything, so I held my tongue. On Christmas Eve 2011, he drank so much that he passed out in my mom's foyer. I spent the night cleaning up his puke, so he wouldn't drown face first in it, and dodging his fist whenever he realized I was nearby. I cried as he said some of the worst things anyone had ever said to me, but I stayed because we hadn't been married that long. Fast forward to my 26th birthday, January of 2012. We went out with friends and had a great night. This is until someone asked me a question about sports. I don't really pay attention to them, but my husband started screaming at me for being a fat, ignorant biatch because I didn't remember the score when the Giants won the World Series. Seriously. On the way home, he brought it up again, then in a fit of rage, swerved our car into oncoming traffic. Luckily, I pulled the wheel back in time so we weren't hit. It was a close one, and did my best to calm him down. When we got home, he was still furious and began throwing things and screaming at me. He opened the knife drawer, and I booked it upstairs and locked myself in the guest bedroom. After 15 minutes of pounding and kicking the door, he gave up and drank until he passed out. That's not funny. The next day, 5 of my friends came over to help me move out while he was at work. I filed for divorce, and the effer has fought me at every single step. I'm still waiting for the divorce to be finalized, but now I have an attorney to do my fighting for me. I think this is actually a very good PSA to always listen to your gut. People tend to do this where someone gets angry, they start punching things like the wall or maybe throwing objects. Those are not little things. Someone is showing you how they act when they're mad. We don't take that lightly. Lesson learned. Moving forward, everyone. Please protect yourself. My God. I need to sit up. I feel like I've been giving myself like a double chin this whole time based on my posture. I look like when I sit upright, I look like a completely different person. And then I'm like, my ex craziness. Number 1, threw a fit of jealousy over the fact that a male friend of mine died and I cried. 1B, new kitten I bought disappeared after I showed affection to it. Oh my God. 3, keylogged my computer to catch me cheating. I wasn't. It was obvious. 3, stole pics, passwords, and all that fun stuff from said keylogging, threatened me, my friends, and created fake social media, horrible profiles of me after I dumped him. 4, threatened to kill my dog. See, that one crosses the line for me. Dogs over humans. That's, if you're new here, that's a joke. 5, vandalized my car, terrorized me for years. He eventually stopped, thank God. Yeah, I don't know. Ugh, I mean, you know, you hear all the time you get a restraining order and it actually does nothing for people, so who am I to say you should have got one? He decided that I was sleeping with a good friend of mine and started having dreams about it, even though it was not true. He then proceeded to call me a dream whore in slut, telling me that I was a biatch for cheating on him. I have to censor myself on YouTube. Little did I know he had decided to cheat on me a couple of months earlier and that he was lying to me about drinking and doing substances. Carrying on, I thought I was ever so in love with him, so I put up with the name calling and accusations. Him always trying to make me feel guilty for texting while being together. He ended up throwing my phone and breaking it. Screamed at me in a movie theater parking lot, and when people tried to intervene, he threatened them with violence and names. Let's just say I didn't stick with him much longer, and when I was strong enough, got out of that relationship. Once he was done crying about it, he called me a slur of names. A week or so later, he showed up at my house trying to tell me that the only way to get over me was for me to kiss him. You wish. When I told him no and backed away, I got another slur of names. That was a fun time. Man, isn't it so annoying when we look back at situations that we stayed in and we're like, what? I put up with that? I allowed that? I stayed for that many years? Like, I was dating a young lady who lived in the Midlands, and she'd come down from London on the weekends and we'd have some fun. What kind of fun? Nothing too serious, but it made my weekends enjoyable. Got it. Out of the blue, I was asked to move to London from New York by work, and so I told my then casual partner that I'd have to break things off because I was leaving the country. She accepted it and stopped coming down on the weekends. Anyway, fast forward a few months and my move to New York gets canned due to budget cuts. I still had my ex on Facebook and I started to notice some odd photos popping up. It turned out she had quit her job and moved to New York when she thought I was going to move, and was now living there for 6 months. She reached out to tell me a few days later, and I had to explain that I wasn't there. She was kind of pissed. For being that casual, if it truly was that casual, that's a lot. Also, I would never move to a new city without telling that person. Like, if you're moving there for them. I dated a stripper for about 6 months. Yeah, I know. There's no judgment here. My little brother got cancer. Oh, no, that's actually so sad. Partway through our relationship, and I was obviously in the hospital with him the majority of the time, she got the flu, and without fail, she called me every day crying that I wasn't able to take care of her. I'm a little preoccupied. Not the best, but how our relationship ended was quite grand. We adopted a cat for Valentine's Day, and she loved the little bastard to death. One day, she's leaving for work and asked me to feed the cat. Of course I will, but I had an unusually long day at work and I was tired. So I decided to lay down on her couch and take a cat nap. Pun fully intended. Well, she got off early and saw that I did not feed the cat. I started having a dream that I was being stabbed with a fork. Well, I was 13 times in the back. Ooh, I could feel that because I didn't feed the cat. I proceeded to get up and run out of the apartment while she was chasing me. This is a scene from a horror movie. She threw her stripper heel at me with deadly accuracy, hit me right in the back of the head, and stunned me enough so I fell down 2 flights of stairs, got concussed, and sprayed both ankles and wrists. The next day she calls me and acts like nothing happened. I can just feel all those little holes in your back. Like, truly. I don't know which part I would rather face, the stairs or the fork. My ex-girlfriend didn't want me to get a new job because she had met my coworkers and didn't want me to meet new people. To this end, she threw all my suits in the washer and turned it on when I was in the shower an hour before the interview. Never made it to that one and lost the job opportunity. For the next interview that I had, she got into my email using my iPad and sent an email telling the new company that I was not interested in the job and told the recruiter to never call me again. Yeah, she was crazy. For some reason, she didn't want me to change jobs. Probably because she's insecure and thinks you're gonna go to a new job and meet girls and yada yada yada. That's exactly what it is. I would put money on it. Stay classy out there, stay sassy.